You recording? Got it muted? And welcome, sports fans, to today's roundtable. And we're already almost halfway through the football season as we concluded week 4 with high school football last night in southeast Missouri. And we had a game last night, and we'll be talking about that throughout the show today. We're also going to dive into some volleyball and even some high school baseball. We got some results to report on from the past week, so we'll be getting to those, and also all new state rankings for high school football and even volleyball we're going to introduce for today. And we've got our first SEMO 15 poll. That's the top 15 poll from southeast Missouri in high school football that we're going to introduce today. And also we'll have a guest in today. We've got Travis Quertermous, one of our sports contributors, in with us this morning to talk about the game that we broadcast last night with Dexter and Caruthersville, and also talk about other sports in the area. So be sure to stick around for Travis as he comes on and we discuss all sports happenings in southeast Missouri. And also we're going to touch on the college football game taking place today in Busch Stadium. We've got Southeast Missouri State and Southern Illinois doing battle in Busch Stadium today, the first ever football game being played at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. And we'll take a look at the field and everything going on with that game in St. Louis later on today. So a really neat story there that we'll touch on. Also give you a preview of college football games taking place this weekend as well. So a lot to get to and a lot to talk about for today. Glad you joined us, and if you want to email us here on our show, just shoot us an email at sports@semosportzone.com. You can shoot us that email anytime, and we'll take your emails here on the show. So just stay connected with us here on the Roundtable. And let's take a look at the games from last night and over the last few days. And take a look at the game we did last night between Caruthersville and Dexter. And it was Caruthersville beating Dexter 63-13. And taking a look at some action from last night. Taking a look at Daryl Monroe getting a nice run here. And he had a big game last night. And this was the first of his a handful of touchdowns on a long run. And now Daryl Monroe with another run, and we can just show how such a specimen he is. I mean, he just lays the wood on someone there along the left sideline. And now the second score, that's Tyler Grissom throwing it up, and I believe that was Jamal Johnson coming down with that touchdown for the Tigers. And Caruthersville really got after it on defense as well all game, getting a sack there in the backfield. And Daryl Monroe taking off for another long score along the left sideline. And we'll get to his numbers in a moment. He had a big game. And here we're looking at Peyton Pollock. A nice pass down the left sideline to DJ Dowdy. That was one of the finer throws that night, but couldn't get consistent plays throughout the game. And here's another run. I think this is Roderick Jones, I believe, along the right side. And Daryl Monroe is going to punch it in for their fourth score of the night. And they go up 28-0 at this point. And just kind of gets worse for the Bearcats from there. An interception picked off there in the secondary. And Peyton Pollock goes to his left and has a nice touchdown pass there to DJ Dowdy to get the Bearcats on the board at that point. And another long run by Daryl Monroe. And once he gets an open space, he's pretty much unstoppable as he runs in for another touchdown. And here we go, another Daryl Monroe run. He's all along the left side and punches it in. And here we've got a run back. I think this is by Roderick Jones, I believe. And he runs it back, runs that kickoff to start the second half. Back for a touchdown. It's 49-7, just a few minutes or just a few seconds into the third quarter, and Tyler Grissom runs it in for a quarterback keeper, and another interception thrown by the Bearcats. And later on, another touchdown to cap it off on a pass. So runaway victory for the Caruthersville Tigers last night. Impressive showing by Daryl Monroe. Probably an All-American he'll be this year. If he's not, he certainly should be. I think he had 4 or 5 touchdowns. I can't remember which, but he had 278 yards rushing and averaged 21 yards a carry in that contest last night. So a big game for Daryl Monroe. We've been seeing put up big games for, it seems, 3 or 4 years now. Seems not much has changed, but he's certainly done it at a consistent basis over the number of years. So Caruthersville, another formidable team this year, especially in Class 2, and they're certainly one of the top teams in the area, and certainly Daryl Monroe on the squad. They're certainly going to be forced to be reckoned with for the remainder of the year. And another games from last night. If we'll go to camera 2 there, Caleb. Palestine Wheatley defeated Piggott 14-12, and that's a game that we covered last night as well. And we'll be airing that replay Sunday at 7 o'clock and Tuesday night at 7:30. So you can catch that game, and also we'll have it uploaded and probably uploaded to yhctv.com by Sunday. We'll have that together by Sunday. And another game's Paragould over Kennett in a shutout, 41-0. And also we have Park Hill Central over Maplewood Richmond Heights in a dominant victory, 39-6. And Park Hill Central off to a very good start. Maplewood Richmond Heights, very good program up there around the St. Louis area. They've done very well in the playoffs over the number of years, but Park Hill Central having no problem with Maplewood last night. And in other games, we have St. Genevieve over Potosi, 35-20. St. Genevieve, another strong year this year. Only loss coming to Valley Catholic right there with their St. Genevieve neighboring school. So another fine year for St. Genevieve so far. And Jackson over Poplar Bluff. Large school matchup there, 26-6. Jackson over Poplar Bluff, and Jackson showing themselves to be one of the top teams in the area, and having a sizable victory over Poplar Bluff last night. And Sykeston over Farmington in a close one, 21-14. And we knew this was going to be a close one coming into this one this week. And Sykeston putting up just enough over Farmington, 21-14. And also we have Malden over Scott City, no problem, 42-7. And this is one team that's making some impressions early on this year with their victory over Scott City. So a team to look forward to later on in the year. Malden improving each week. They took a sizable loss to Caruthersville, but you know that if you're looking at those two teams, Malden, Caruthersville, and probably some of the other Class 2 schools, they're probably the team that's got the most to improve, and I think by year's end they'll be a competitive team there in Class 2. And also Chaffee over Portageville, a nice Class 1 matchup there last night, and Chaffee having no problem with Portageville, and that's one team to look out for in Class 1. They've really got off to a good start this year, and they might be moving their way up in that Class 1 district. Might be at this point the best team to challenge Valley Catholic in that Class 1 district, which it's a team that's in their own class. You mentioned Valley Catholic, but Chaffee's making some really good strides here early on, some dominant victories, and looking good there in Class 1. All right, another games we got New Matter County Central over Charleston, 22-8, an impressive victory for the Eagles. Probably looking into that game, Charleston may have looked like they may have had the advantage in that game. New Matter's had a tough time offensively over the past few weeks. They've really struggled scoring, and I think they may have been shut out. I know they were shut out the first 2 games. I'm not sure if they were shut out all 3 of those first week games, but a nice offensive productivity last night in that game against Charleston. Charleston, a little surprising that they struggled like they did last night, but they did jump out on New Matter, and New Matter actually had to come back from behind. So we'll see how it all plays out for the weeks going forward. And in other games, Hayti over East Prairie, 13-2. Hayti having some struggles early on and had a hard time putting up some points on the board, but enough to get the victory over East Prairie last night. And Fort Zumwalt East over Cape Central, 47-21. Cape Central taking on the chin last night against a tough St. Louis team out of Fort Zumwalt East. And we're moving on to some volleyball scores from the past few days now. And Dexter defeated Bernie in two straight sets Thursday. That match was, and Dexter really getting off to a good start to their volleyball season. Also, we've got Poplar Bluff over Sykeston in two straight sets on Thursday. And Poplar Bluff over Sykeston in two straight sets. Advance over Richland yesterday in two straight sets. Advance over Richland. And also Leopold over Advance from Thursday in two straight sets in that match as well. And to high school baseball, Bernie off to a really good start in high school baseball this year. Got a nice victory over Puxco and a 10-run rule, 15-5. And also we have Holcomb over Twin Rivers yesterday, 8-5. And those are some results from the past few days here in Southeast Missouri. And we're going to take a break and bring along Travis Quertermous, one of our sports contributors, talk about these high school football games and other sports in the area. So don't go away. Travis Quertermous coming up.
Welcome to NFL Total Access,
the show that takes you inside the locker room and down on the field. With inside access to all 32 teams all year long. NFL Total Access, Monday through Saturday, only on NFL Network.
NFL Network, where football season never ends.
I'm married, I have a child, and my someday was when my job got shipped to Mexico. So I took charge and went to Three Rivers College. It opened doors I couldn't imagine. Better job, better pay. My certification in green diesel technology at Three Rivers took less than 2 years. Didn't cost a lot either. My future's never looked greener. Three Rivers College. Turn your someday into graduation day.
Take your first step toward a stronger, more fulfilling career. Make your someday today. Enroll now at Three Rivers College.
First Midwest Bank Gold Club offers special privileges for our friends who are age 50 or better and have combined deposits of $5,000. Members enjoy trips, cruises, seminars, and picnics along with free personalized bank services. Upcoming trips include Journey Through the Holy Land, Yellowstone in winter, Classic Ireland, and Hawaiian Paradise Cruise. Stop by any First Midwest Bank location to sign up for the Gold Club. It's absolutely free. First Midwest Bank, providing common sense financial solutions every day.
And now we're back along with Travis Quertermous, one of our sports contributors here on the Roundtable. And Travis was along with us last night for the Dexter and Caruthersville game, bringing that game to you here on YHC and online. And tough go for the Dexter Bearcats last night, which any team that's going up against Caruthersville here in Southeast Missouri is going to have a tough game. But Dexter just really couldn't get anything going, and offensively, that's one area we thought that they would have an opportunity to put some points on the board. Due to some other teams in the past few weeks putting some points up on the board against Caruthersville, but just didn't seem to go that way last night.
No, Caruthersville came in with a 2-1 record, but they got hammered pretty good at home in week 1 by Mountain View Liberty, and then they struggled really against both Malden and Charleston, especially against Charleston. And so we thought that maybe we might be able to pull an upset here. We thought they might be vulnerable in special teams. They gave up 2 touchdowns the week before on special teams to Charleston. They've been vulnerable to the pass, it seems. Not last night. They really, I don't know what switch Coach Nathan's flipped down there, but they had it hitting on all cylinders, all 3 phases of the game. As we saw in the highlights, Daryl Monroe was just an unstoppable force last night. Hurricane Monroe just swept through Dexter. We had some rainy conditions, so we'll just name it Hurricane Monroe in his honor. Defensively, they were very stout. They forced 5 Bearcat turnovers, including 3 interceptions of quarterback Peyton Pollock. So certainly no vulnerability in the secondary there last night. And even on special teams, we saw Roderick Jones run the opening kickoff of the second half back for a touchdown. Very impressive play. We thought the Bearcats had him stopped on the far sideline, and he just reversed his field and ran for a touchdown. So just very, very impressive performance by the Caruthersville Tigers, and they should certainly make some noise in the playoffs again this year. I have no doubt.
Sure. And we've seen the same faces over the past few years. Daryl Monroe at running back, Tyler Grissom at quarterback, and these guys have really got a great cohesion together, playing together over the past few years. And Daryl Monroe, he's been a big time player ever since he was a freshman, so it's no real surprise of what he's able to do on the field. We've kind of seen the same things over the past few years. But I thought, looking back at last week's game, Dexter played well. You look at that score, 34-0, and say, well, they didn't play well defensively. They didn't give up the big play.
Right.
And they limited Sykeston to just basically march up the field, which Sykeston had their way offensively. They just marched it up the field, but they didn't give up that big play. So there you're looking at, well, if they can, stop the big play and Daryl Monroe just running at will, that they could contain Caruthersville and try to get them in 3rd and 5 situations to where they can limit them or contain them. But we certainly didn't see that last night.
Well, you knew Daryl was going to get his yards and get his points, and I think, as you say, the hope was that they would mix up their defenses, they would contain him, but there was no containing him. If he'd played the whole second half, there's no doubt he would have rushed for over 400 yards. He was getting over 20 yards a carry as it was on average. So he was just a man among boys last night. And you mentioned Tyler Grissom, the 3-year starter at quarterback for Caruthersville. We just saw him running the touchdown in there on the screen. He was a dual threat last night, passing and running. So he directs that offense very well. And we have to give a shout out to that Caruthersville offensive line. They were very impressive last night. They just dominated the line of scrimmage. They opened up huge holes for Daryl to run through. Not that he needs much of a hole, but they really made his job easy last night. Dexter just had no answer there on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, certainly not. And a lot of teams are going to have that challenge as well. Take a look at Caruthersville and Daryl Monroe. I think he had 278 yards rushing, and I think he had 268 of them in the first half.
Yeah, five touchdowns. He was, like I said, just an unstoppable force on the football field last night. Made some good tackles on defense too. Forced a fumble last night that the Tigers recovered and went on to march for a score. So he's just a very, very good football player. Division I talent, no doubt about it. Hopes Coach Gary Pinkel up in Columbia is getting some film on him. We don't want to let this talent get out of state for sure.
Certainly. Yeah, he's probably had his eye on him since he was probably in 7th grade.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah. So, and just break down his yards. I can't remember how many carries he had, maybe 13 carries. I think he had 21 yards a carry. So he was getting 2 first downs every carry.
Yeah, it's just, what can you say? Just like I said, Hurricane Daryl blew through Dexter last night, and the Bearcats just have to put it behind them. I told Brandon last night, I said, just burn the film. My son Brandon, don't even look at it, forget about it. Got a big game with Kennett coming up this week as they go down to face their former coach and Coach Pixley, and you know that they're going to want to get that victory.
Certainly. It'll be a nice matchup for both teams. It seems like they'll match up well. Dexter's out of that gauntlet of their schedule those first 4 games.
Murderer's row that our early schedule is. And so they're getting into there's still some good teams yet to be played. But certainly, with the exception of Park Hill Central that we play later in the season, the teams that are not quite on the caliber or the level of the teams we played so far this year. So some winnable games out there. The Bearcats have been really ravaged again by injuries in the early part of the season, especially on that offensive line. But I think the good news is we're getting healthy at the right time, where we're getting into some games that we can win, we should win. So hopefully they've been through their baptism of fire, and they'll be able to get some players back, especially on that offensive line. In fact, I think next week we'll see for the first time this season the offensive line they hope to put on the field week 1. So we'll see how that plays out. I thought the offensive line did play better last night. It seems like both Peyton Pollock and DJ Dowdy later in the game had more time to throw and a little more success throwing the football. So hopefully they'll build on that and continue to improve.
Now, taking a look at Caruthersville, we saw them have a really tough game with Charleston last week. So
That's right.
They're in that Class 2 district. Looking forward, we might see that rematch.
That's right.
Come down the end of the Class 2 playoffs later on. So that's something to look forward to. And I was really surprised that Charleston struggled as much as they did against New Madrid last night.
I was too. I predicted Charleston to win that game, especially after their impressive showing against Caruthersville. I don't know if they had maybe a bit of an emotional letdown after playing their big rival, and Caruthersville is so tough. They did jump out to an 8-0 lead, but New Madrid came roaring back, scored 22 unanswered points, including a couple of late scores to put the game away. So our other Coach Pixley in the area, Coach Arlen Pixley down there at New Madrid, his Eagles have won 2 games in a row now pretty impressively, and after being shut out their first 2 games of the season, and they could make some noise in Class 3 here in the district before it's all said and done.
And who did Matter beat last week?
Kennett.
Kennett? Okay.
Yeah, they put a pretty good hurting on Kennett
they put
in week 3.
I said in the opening, I knew they got shut out the first 2 weeks. Wasn't quite sure about the third one. They put 40 points on
Yeah, they hammered Kennett pretty good. And Coach Pixley down at Kennett is dealing with some injury problems, especially at the quarterback position. Declan Wallace, DK as they call him, was hurt in the jamboree. He's done for the year. And then last week in the first play from scrimmage, I think, against New Madrid, the backup, Akeem Nelson, went down. I don't know if he played last night or not, but considering that they got hammered pretty good at home by Paragould, I would say he probably didn't play.
Yeah, he's a great threat for them. He's a dual threat where he's got a strong arm. He can throw it deep downfield. He can tuck it and run it and make some things happen. So that really hurts them if he's not being able to play there in the backfield for the Kennett Indians. He's a great threat for them.
That's certainly true. And Indian fans, be patient. You've got the right man at the head coaching position, but Rome wasn't built in a day. Kennett has struggled for a number of years now in football, but he'll get it turned around. Give him 2 or 3 seasons, and Kennett will be competitive again.
Yeah, they've got some ingredients there on offense and defense this year that they could be, competitive and have a 500 season this year. They're certainly capable of that if they get things rolling at the right time. They got to have the right kids on the field. Certainly, your talented players, you got to have them on the field to produce such a season. So we'll see how it plays out. Should be a great matchup this next week, this Friday night. Kennett and Dexter, and should be a great matchup between these 2 teams.
It should be. Both teams are going to be fired up. Coach Pixley's not going to want to lose to his former team. Dexter is going to want to stick one to their old coach. Kennett hasn't beaten Dexter in about 13 years. And, of course, the man responsible for all those defeats is now the head coach at Kennett with Coach Aaron Pixley. So it's going to be very interesting. I know that Dexter will be fired up and Kennett will be fired up. It's their homecoming next week down at Kennett. So a lot of emotion will be seen out there on that field, and hopefully our Bearcats can get one in the win column.
Sure. And we'll be bringing that game to you next Friday night live from Messer Stadium down in Kennett. So look forward to that being here on Channel 21 Live and also online, CMOSportZone.com. So we'll have that game for you here on YHC. So look forward to that. And take a look at some other games in the area. Sykeston really pulled one out late against Farmington last night, 21-14. And we knew that was going to be a pretty close game, but Sykeston pulled out another one.
Well, it was a little closer, actually, than I expected it to be, Tyler. Of course, Sykeston handled them pretty easily last year up in the Dome. They played up in the Edward Jones Dome last year. This year, the game was in Sykeston. The Sykeston defense has just been suffocating. As good as they were last year, they may be even better this year. So I really thought they would probably beat Farmington a little more than they did, but credit Farmington. They've got a great playmaker, their quarterback, and the Baum kid, and or Boehm, however you pronounce his last name, but he's an excellent football player. They actually jumped out on Sykeston 7-0. Sykeston scored 21 unanswered. Farmington scored late in the game and had a chance there to take it over, to tie the game, but Sykeston defense rose to the occasion, forced a turnover, and sealed the win. So Sykeston 4-0 once again, no surprise there. They do struggle a bit on offense though, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. They get into the meat of their schedule starting next week. They got Poplar Bluff coming in, and then Cape Central and Jackson after that. So they're really going to put Sykeston to the test over the next 3 weeks. See how good they really are.
Certainly. Yeah, Sykeston, that's the weakness of their teams, their offense, which they're not a weak offensive team.
Oh, by no means.
But that defense is going to get them the field position. They're going to give them opportunities with turnovers. So that's what's going to make their offense even more productive, is that they're always going to have the advantage of either field position or getting timely turnovers.
That's right. Sykeston's built their program on defense the last few years, and no different this year. The defense is going to carry them, and the offense just needs to score enough points to let that defense really do its job.
Certainly. So another tough team in Sykeston, as we're all used to, and one game that was, we're getting into some of these games that we're matching up against some district foes. You can get a better look at how things may develop later on in the season. And one of them games was Jackson and Poplar Bluff. Jackson got a 26-6 win over Poplar Bluff. And we knew Jackson was very much improved, but we, coming in the first couple games, how much more improved are they? Poplar Bluff's kind of one of those teams, they're improving, but, well, a 26-6 victory, pretty impressive for Jackson. So, they've really come up to be one of the top teams in the area once again.
Yeah, Jackson's only lost to state-ranked Vianney. They've got a Division I prospect there at running back, and he had a monster game against the Indians. So I think you're right. I think probably talent-wise, no doubt, Jackson is the best team in the area. This game with Poplar Bluff was actually a little closer than I think than the score would indicate. Poplar Bluff was actually winning that game 6-0 at halftime. So they played an outstanding first half, did the Mules defensively. But Jackson got it going and scored 26 unanswered there in the second half to put the game away. So an impressive win for Coach Eckley and the Indians. And if memory serves, do they have Cape Central coming up this week?
I didn't see what they had.
I think so. I think they have the Cape Central coming up, and of course that's one of the biggest rivalries in Southeast Missouri.
Yeah.
And but I believe that game is in Jackson, and whenever those two teams match up, you can pretty well throw the records out the window. Cape is 1-3, but along with Dexter, they played just a brutal early season schedule here. They got thumped pretty good last night by a 4-0 Fort Zumwalt East team, and but that won't matter when they go over to play Jackson in the pit.
Yeah.
They'll be fired up and ready to play.
Yeah, those teams to look out for is that Jackson-Cape Central matchup, and probably down the road that Jackson-Sykeston matchup. Those are going to be some great games to look forward to.
And Sykeston-Cape Central, that's become a growing, more intense rivalry. Those two teams split their games last year, if you remember. Sykeston got the regular season victory, but Cape Central knocked Sykeston out of the playoffs on their home field. So that'll leave a bitter taste in the Bulldogs' mouth, and I'm sure they'll be fired up when they go up to play Cape Central later this year.
Certainly. And another game to look at from last night, Chaffee getting a decisive victory over Portersville. And that's one team, especially you look at the smaller schools, Class 1, that team's really come a long way in the past couple of years, and they've been consistent, been a pretty good team the past couple of years, but this year they've taken it to another level.
Now, last year, Chaffee was just so beat up. They had so many injuries, and when you're a small Class 1 school, that really takes its toll. This year, the injury bug has not bit the Red Devils, and as you say, they're off to an impressive 4-0 start. Even when they won the state championship back in '83, they didn't get off to a 4-0 start. So they've been very impressive on both sides of the ball. The Montgomery brothers down there have really put on a show offensively. But I think that one thing that people have lost sight of with Chaffee is their defense. I don't think they've given up double-digit scores to any of the four teams they've played thus far. So they're getting it done on both sides of the ball. They've got a big game, I think, coming up with rival Scott City this week. And so they'll be fired up for that. Of course, the Rams will also. Really young Rams team. They've got a freshman at quarterback. So Chaffee should probably get another win there. But that's another game you throw the records out. It's such a heated rivalry. Scott City will come ready to play. But Chaffee really, really impressive. I'll be really surprised if they don't crack the top 10 this week in Class 1. They certainly should.
Yeah, they've been very impressive early on. And right now you've got to say they're the favorite to at least challenge Valley Catholic for that district championship.
Yeah, that's true. As you said in the opening, the Valley Catholic is really in a class by themselves when it comes to Class 1. They've been the runner-up in Class 1, I believe, the last 2 years. I know they lost last year in the title game, but
I think they won it a couple
very,
years ago.
very impressive. They got a young man up there, the running back, by the name of Tyler Fowlert, and he is a wrecking ball. He is just he's kind of the Daryl Monroe of St. Genevieve County up there, and he is just steamrolling everybody. They just crushed Crystal City last night at home, 48-0, something like that. And Crystal City is, I think, are they Class 2 or 3?
I think
They're quite a bit bigger than Valley. Anyway,
yeah, they're at least Class 2 for sure.
So they just keep rolling along. Valley Catholic does, and they'll no doubt be back in the dome. Chaffee, I think, will certainly advance as far as the district championship, but tall order to knock off Valley Catholic.
Yeah, certainly is. It's kind of a shame that they live so far up, so far north, because we don't really see them unless they're playing in a district championship. So it'd be really nice if we could see them play, because they're certainly one of the best programs in the state when you look at
11 state championships. They did venture down here a couple of times last season. They went down to New Madrid last year and put a pretty good hurting on the Eagles. And then they went to Portageville for the district championship game, and of course just crushed Portageville in that one. So Coach Vickery has really got that program in Chaffee turned around. Hats off to him and his coaching staff. He picked up his 200th win earlier this year, second or third game of the season. So he's really done a good job there at Chaffee.
Certainly has. So that's a program to look forward to seeing what they do, how it's all going to progress in Class 1 this year. And is there any games I'm overlooking that had some significance last night? Trying to think.
Well, I think we've touched on most of them. Hayti got their first win last night. They went down to East Prairie and picked up a 13-2 win. Both teams very young. Hayti has a new head coach, new system they're putting in place, but very young team. Not many seniors there. East Prairie is the same. They're young but improving. They got their first win a couple of weeks ago up at Grandview. Took a heartbreaker of a loss last week in overtime at Scott City. Really let one get away there, and then played Hayti tough, 13-2. So congratulations to Hayti. They got their first win of the season. But I think one team to really keep an eye on, at least in Class 3, again, they play a little farther north of here, is the Park Hill Central Rebels. 4-0, big win last night again as they really put it to Maplewood Richmond Heights, who's been a good program. They're a little down this year. Lost a lot from a really good team last season, but their defense is right up there with Sykeston's in terms of being the two best in the greater Southeast Missouri area. They've pitched at least 2 or 3 shutouts on the season. They really put a hurting on Fredericktown last week, shut them out 25-0. Big win over Maplewood last night. And another big rivalry game coming up for them this week, though. They get together with St. Genevieve. And that's going to be a huge game. And the winner of that game is probably going to be the number 1 seed in the district in Class 3 in our area. So a lot on the line, big rivalry, a lot of emotion. Park Hill Central beat them twice last year. And so they're looking to continue that streak against the Dragons. In fact, they beat them for the second time last season in the district championship game. Yeah. So the Rebels are for real. They've got a great defense. They move the ball well. They don't do a lot through the air, but they've got a great big offensive line, kind of like we saw from Caruthersville last night. Really good running back, nice quarterback running the offense, and they're just kind of like a steamroller. They just ball control, ball control, ball control. 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, touchdown, and they're really, really good. So keep an eye on Park Hill Central.
Yeah, certainly they've gotten off to a great start. We've been used to seeing them do well over the past few years, and we've got the SEMO top 10 or top 15 poll for Southeast Missouri for the first time this week, and it's a poll of the 15 best teams in Southeast Missouri, and we'll just take a look at that. And at number 1 for the first poll, we've got Jackson, who stands at 3-1, followed by 2, Sykeston, who's undefeated at 4-0. Park Hill Central, an undefeated 4-0. Valley Catholic at number 4 at an undefeated 4-0. Caruthersville at number 5. 6, St. Genevieve. 7, Cape Central. 8, Poplar Bluff. 9, Farmington. 10, Chaffee. 11, Malden. 12, Fredericktown. 13, New Madrid County Central. 14, Charleston. And 15, St. Vincent. And that's the first CMO 15 poll from CMOSportZone.com. And there's going to be a little jockeying for a position there at the top. You could probably throw any one of those probably top 3 teams and place them at number 1 and probably be just fine. But Jackson, Sykeston, Park Hill Central top that poll. And, it's kind of hard to see which one of those teams is the best one right now. But Jackson, they've had the most difficult schedule going in. So taking a close loss or tough loss to Vianney, a state-ranked Vianney in Class 5,
right?
May have
no
kind
shame
of
there.
May have kind of set that straight, that they've played the best competition, played them right down to the wire. And that was probably the difference in them having the top 1 in that poll.
And Jackson has had some injury problems this year. They've played the first 3 games at least without their top 2 running backs. They did play last night. At least one of them was back starting. The other, I think, they pretty much reserved for defense. So once they get healthy, they're really going to be good. So talent-wise, I think Jackson is probably the best team in the area. Sykeston and Park Hill Central, very talented. And I tell you what, Valley Catholic, Class 1, but they can play with anybody. So yeah, you could make an argument for any of the top 4 teams there for that number 1 position. So, but we'll see how things play out over the next coming weeks. St. Vincent there at number 15 in the poll. They got an impressive win last night against Herculaneum. They're 2-2 to start the season. They took a thumping last week from Valley Catholic, but who hasn't? So no real shame there. But the Chargers up there having a good season so far, 2-2, and hope they continue to improve.
Certainly. And let's take a look at some state rankings for this week. Actually, they're released Monday, so the games from last night will not reflect. And for the state rankings this week, starting out in Class 1, Valley Catholic moving up to number 1. Hamilton, the defending state champions, took a loss last week, and Valley Catholic moves into that number 1 ranking for this week. Westron stays at number 2, Hamilton number 3. Westron moves up from 3 to number 2. Hamilton moves back from number 1 to number 3. Cass Midway at 4, 5 Salisbury, 6 Milan, 7 Skyline, 8 Marceline, 9 Thayer, and 10 Drexel. So Thayer moving into that top 10 poll. I'm not sure they were in the top 10 last week, but Valley Catholic moves up to number 1, Thayer into the top 10, and usually that's who matches up in that Class 1 final between Thayer and Valley Catholic. So it looks like these teams are one of the top ones in Class 1 once again.
Yeah, they're the 2 traditional powers in our area in Class 1. Now, last year you threw Portageville into the mix. They graduated a lot. They've got a young team, so they're in a little bit of a rebuilding mode this year down there with Coach Jeff Bullock. And now you got to throw Chaffee into the mix. I don't know how Thayer did last night, but if they lost, you have to think they would drop out, and Chaffee might move up to into that top 10.
Yeah, certainly impressive so far for the Red Devils. And let's move to Class 2. And Lamar, they're at number 1, undefeated so far. They've been number 1 all year. And Mountain View Liberty's right there behind them at number 2. 3, Mountain Grove. 4, South Callaway. 5, Stratford. 6, Caruthersville. 7, Lafayette County. 8, Lathrop. 9, Brookfield. And 10, Palmyra. So not much change in that poll. Caruthersville was 6th last week. And pretty much the top, for sure, I think the top, pretty much that poll stayed the same this week. I don't think there's been much change at all. But Caruthersville, they opened up, I think, at number 3, right behind Mountain View Liberty. They took a loss, went down to 6. And, well, I tell you, when you talk about Mountain View Liberty putting 60 points and winning, 60 to
28, something along
20,
that line. Yeah, they
something
beat them
along those lines.
decisively.
Yeah, decisively. And that just shows you what kind of talent's up there at the top of Class 2.
That's true. And really, as good as Mountain View Liberty is, it's Lamar and everybody else in Class 2. They are one of the best teams in the state, regardless of class. The week before, they pounded a top 10 team in Class 4, I think, and just really took it to them. They've got a very unique offense up there in Lamar. They have 2 quarterbacks on the field at the same time. I've never seen anything like that in 35 years of watching football at every level, and it really works for them. They've got a great system, great athletes, great coaches, and and they're the prohibitive favorite to win Class 2 again this year.
And they rolled through it last year.
They had no competition at all in Class 2.
I think they put 60 points on Caruthersville last year in a quarterfinal or semifinal game. Yeah, and we really thought Caruthersville was doing well. They got by Maplewood Richmond Heights there in the quarters to beat them up, and Caruthersville might have a chance to get to the Dome this year, and ran into Lamar and 60 to maybe 20 or something.
It was. I think memory serves, Caruthersville got an early score, an early lead, and then that was all she wrote. Yeah. And they ended up beating them really, really bad in that semifinal game. So, like I said, in Class 2 this year, again, it's Lamar and everybody else. So it would take a monumental upset to stop them from repeating as the Class 2 state champions.
Yeah. And let's take a look at Class 3 for this week's rankings. And Maryville stays on top at number 1. John Burroughs still at number 2. California, 4 Oak Grove, 5 Duchesne, 6 Reed Springs, 7 O'Fallon Christian, 8 Manette, 9 Cameron, and 10 Cassville. And in Class 3 there, John Burroughs and Maryville played in the state championship last year. Maryville come out on top, so might see that once again this year. But usually we've got a Class 3 team in there from Southeast Missouri. It's either Park Hill Central, St. Genevieve, one of those teams.
Right.
Haven't cracked that poll yet.
Yeah, St. Genevieve was ranked preseason in the top 10 by most sports, but after their loss to Valley Catholic, they've dropped out. Park Hill Central should crack the top 10 this week. They've been getting some votes, and just depending on how some of those other teams played, I would look for them to slide in there at number 10 this week. In Class 3, they've had, especially after a very impressive win against Maplewood Richmond Heights. So look for them to slip into the top 10 this week. Another team to keep an eye on there is O'Fallon Christian. That's a very, very talented football team. And they're kind of quiet up there. Not a lot of people pay attention to them, but they've got a very good team. They have brought back a lot of players from last year, so they'll make some noise in the postseason, I believe.
And in Class 4, let's take a look at this poll. And we have Webb City took a loss. I know maybe you can add in who that loss was to, but nonetheless, they keep their number 1 ranking. So it must have been a pretty good foe there to take a loss to and keep their number 1 ranking. 2 Bolivar, undefeated at 3-0. 3 Jeff City Helias. 4 Harrisonville. 5 Westminster. 6 Moberly, 7 Liberty North, 8 Hillcrest, 9 Festus, and 10 Hannibal. And we're used to seeing Webb City at the top of that poll each year throughout the season, and they've been the class of Class 4 for as long as you can remember. And they probably must have had a pretty impressive loss, if there's such a thing, to keep their number 1 ranking with a loss.
I don't remember the name of the school, but it was a big school from Arkansas that beat them. Class 5 or 6 team out of Arkansas that beat them, and all that's going to do is make them mad. And so I feel sorry for whoever they have to play the rest of the season. Webb City is kind of to Class 4 what Lamar is to Class 2. It's them and everybody else, and that's just the sad reality of it. They're just one of those teams that's in a class by themselves. One of the top teams in the state. Again, irregardless of class, they can play with anybody. They're just very talented, very well coached, got a great system, and again, the prohibitive favorite to win Class 4 once again. Saxton might sneak into that top 10 this week after going 4-0 and knocking Farmington off. I know some of the sports writers have docked them for strength of schedule here early on, but 4-0 is still 4-0, and they might get into the top 10 this week.
Yeah, certainly with Farmington, a Class 4 school. Defeating them will beefing up their chances to get in that poll next week. So we'll just have to see for this next week's poll. And in Class 5, number 1 Lee Summit West, an undefeated 3-0. 2 Fort Osage, or two-way tie for second, Fort Osage and Parkway Central. 4 Kirkwood, 5 Camden, 6 Staley, 7 Ozark, 8 Vianney, 9 Webster Groves, and 10 Nixa. And no Southeast Missouri teams in that poll, but we might be able to see, say, Jackson move into that top 10 poll once they keep their undefeated ways.
Jackson continues to win and continues to win impressively. They'll crack that top 10 before it's all said and done, especially when they get Colton Proffer 100%. He played last night, but, and I don't know this for sure, but my guess would be in the rainy conditions last night, he didn't see a lot of playing time. He's still nursing a high ankle sprain that he suffered, I believe, in their jamboree. So once he gets 100%, he's going to give them a little bit more of a balanced attack. And they've also got their number 2 runner who's only seen limited action at running back right now, so also with an ankle injury. They're saving him more for the defensive side of the ball. But Jackson is just loaded again this year, and they should. I think they should win the SEMO North Conference, and they'll be in the top 10 before it's all said and done. A lot of parity in Class 5.
Yeah.
Those teams just tend to beat up on each other, and there's just no there's no Lamar, there's no Webb City that dominates Class 5, and so you could see anyone in the Dome before it's all said and done.
Certainly. And Jackson's always had the benefit. They kind of get the benefit of the doubt early, or probably going back a number of years, coming into a season. If they start out well, they're usually always in that top 10. But you have a few struggles over a couple of years. You don't necessarily get that benefit of going 3-4-0 and getting that top 10. You kind of have to earn your way back in.
That's right.
To the mainstays of the state there in Class 5. So once they start continuing to win, and probably over the next few years, they'll get that benefit of having good records and cracking that pole once
I think
again.
so. Just to back up for a minute to Class 4, watch out for Festus. They have been really impressive here at the beginning of the season. They've been scoring a ton of points. They hung 70 on Farmington a couple of weeks ago. They put 60 points on the board up against somebody, I don't remember now offhand. They routed DeSoto last night by about 40 points. So they are off to a great start. And watch out for them in Class 4. And they're in our district. So Sykeston, Cape Central, we'll have to contend with them before it's all said and done. They're likely to be the number 1 seed in the district if they keep it up like they've been playing. So watch out for Festus. They've turned things around up there.
They put how many on
70.
Farmington?
They put 70 points on Farmington.
Farmington, wow.
In week 1 or week 2. And then I said it's routed DeSoto, and they're off to a great start. They beat Hillsboro, so Hillsboro is traditionally pretty strong in the district. So watch out for Festus. They'll probably be in the top 10 before long.
Wow, that's impressive. We're going to transition from football now and talk to a few other sports. Volleyball. Volleyball's off to a strong start. They had the Dig for Life Challenge a few weeks ago, and come down to Notre Dame and Dexter, 2 fine programs, and Notre Dame won that once again this year. But Dexter's really a team that's made some strong advances the past few years, and looking like they're one of the top teams in the area. Once again this year, had a sizable victory over Bernie, which has come a long way the past few years. It went runner-up in Class 2 last year, I believe that's Class 2 in volleyball last year. And Dexter handled them no problem, 2 straight sets. So
the Lady Bearcats volleyball team off to a great start. They actually won the first set against Notre Dame in that Dig for Life championship, and then Notre Dame came back and won the last 2 sets to take the title. But there's 48 schools that participated in that Dig for Life challenge, so that's very impressive. So they've got 2 losses to Notre Dame, 1 to St. Pius the 10th, both traditional powerhouses there in girls volleyball. So Dexter brought almost all their whole team back from last year, and they're off to a great start, and they should go a long way. Got to get over that Notre Dame hump, but there's no doubt that they have the talent to beat them. If they can continue to improve, they have the talent.
And you have to mention Perryville. Perryville
probably, also very strong.
They've really been strong. David Murley's done a great job up there with that program, and I think last year or the year before they won districts and advanced, and those 3 teams are going to be having a challenge amongst each other for that district championship this year.
And speaking of the Lady Bearcats, I think we need to give a shout out to our tennis team. They are off to a great start, 8-2, I think. Coach Kurt Lovelady's doing a great job with the Lady Bearcats tennis team. They had a big win over Jackson last week, and Poplar Bluff as well. So they're doing real well. Unfortunately, they're in the same district with Kennett, and Kennett's ladies, the Lady Indians tennis program is just really, really strong. I don't know if they can get over that hump. Kennett beat them pretty handily in one of their 2 losses on the season. So, but no doubt they're continuing to get better, continuing to improve. So Coach Lovelady doing a great job with the Lady Bearcats tennis team.
Certainly. And also, just to touch on real quick, fall baseball. the Bernie Mules had a big victory over Puxco, and they've had some big victories all fall.
How about Bernie? Yeah, they've always been respectable in baseball, not really a powerhouse in the area, but they've sure turned it on here in fall ball in the early going. And hats off to the Bernie baseball team, and it certainly bodes well for them come spring baseball. And fall ball is kind of a tune-up for a lot of these teams getting ready for the spring season, but they've just played outstanding baseball early on.
I think I know what it comes down to is the coaching at Jeff Rogers, what he's doing.
Well, I don't know. They might be winning in spite of Jeff, but
Jeff Rogers out there, yeah, he's probably I
got to be careful. Jeff and Waynetta go to church with us, so. But we like to tease them.
Yeah.
Waynetta, I know, does a good job helping you with the news here, and how about Waynetta? She's just really come a long way after that terrible automobile accident she was in, and she's got a lot of spirit. She and Jeff both, just two of my favorite people.
Yeah, Jeff taking over the baseball program. I think this may be his first year taking over that program. He's done some girls softball, but moving over to baseball, and off to a pretty good start. They're doing very well.
There, you get hats off. 15-5, I think here. So they've really done well. Been very impressive, and looks, as we said, looks good for spring baseball for the Bernie Mules.
Certainly. Is there anything in the works that we might be overlooking that's coming up? I know we talked about some big football games coming up. Trying to just think if there's anything that we're overlooking to mention to anyone out there.
Well, of course, you got soccer going on. Not a lot of soccer teams, here in the YHC coverage area. That's another sport that Notre Dame seems to dominate.
Yeah.
But you have soccer going on, cross country, another sport going on. So lots of
some high school softball going on.
High school softball, girls softball. So a lot of action going on here, sports-wise, both boys and girls.
Certainly. And you talked about Notre Dame, and we mentioned volleyball, and read some reports that they're looking to add boys volleyball at
That's
Notre
right.
Dame.
I read that same article, and that'll be a first for Southeast Missouri. I don't believe we have any other men's volleyball teams in the area, and right now they don't even have enough schools for Misha to recognize the sport as such. So they'll have to go up north, play in the St. Louis area. That's where most of the teams that have the schools that offer men's volleyball are located. So, but hats off to Notre Dame. Now they just need to get football going up there, and we'll see. They might actually have something.
Yeah, I think that was the Missourian that reported on that, and yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that's Notre Dame. They don't stick to your traditional sports. They don't have a football program, but they get into the soccer. I think they got a lacrosse team, I believe, and
Swimming,
and
got an excellent swimming team,
and getting into the boys volleyball. So they're attracting those kids that don't necessarily play the mainstay sports, right. And hats off to them, providing those opportunities to play some of those other sports that just most schools don't offer and really can't offer.
That's right, just because of size limitations. Yeah. Swimming, for example, that's something only the largest schools can offer. And I think maybe Notre Dame and Jackson and Cape are the only schools in our area that offer that. Before I do get out of here, I do want to offer one more shout out to my alumni, the Kelly Hawks.
Oh, yeah.
Their JV team is off to a 3-0 start. And this is their second year playing at a JV level. They'll step up to varsity next year. And Coach Bottinger is building a good program over there in 2 years. So they're off to a good start. Not sure what conference they're going to play in next year. They'll be Class 2. I wouldn't be surprised if they put them into the SEMO Central Conference there with Dexter and Caruthersville and Malden and Charleston. But we'll see how that plays out next year. But Kelly, off to a good start in terms of their football program.
Yeah, certainly. I think football will do well there. They got some good, strong kids there, and I think they'll translate well.
Right, a lot of good German stock over there. Big, strong farm boys. So they're tailor-made for football over there at Kelly.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. It's good they're bringing that program along. And well, if we don't have anything else, I think that'll pretty much wrap up just what's going on here in the last couple days here in Southeast Missouri and going forward, and got some more good football to play. We're got 4 weeks in the can now, and looking forward to the remainder 6 and into the playoffs. So A lot more football to take a look at, and as we've mentioned, we'll be in Kennett next Friday night for high school football down there in Kennett, and we'll have that one live here on YHC TV and even online, SemoSportsZone.com, as Dexter takes on Kennett, and also we'll be down, I believe we've got Portageville and Hayti next week. I believe that's the second game we're doing, and we're going to have that, won't be live, but we'll have it available to view here on YHC for replays that next Sunday and Tuesday, and also online, SemoSportsZone.com. So Portageville and Hayti will be a nice Class 1 matchup
Be a
to look forward
good
there.
football game.
Yeah, it certainly will. Those teams always match up well, and shouldn't be any different once again this year. So.
An exciting slate of football games this week, so a lot to look forward to.
Yeah,
a lot of big rivalry games this week.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to it. And Travis, appreciate you stopping by today and talking about
always a pleasure.
All the sports in the area with our viewers, and we'll be looking forward to another week of football and other sports in the area, and we'll be sure to have you back down the road.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
All right. And we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to touch on those volleyball state rankings and also college football in the area, and a neat story of football at Busch Stadium we're going to talk about and show to you coming up, so don't go away.
Go Red Hawks. And go Mizzou. They've got a big game with Indiana this week.
Yeah, they need to pick up that.
Okay, you're hooked up and ready to go?
New Wave knows you're excited about sports, so now's a great time to get connected with the Triple Play Package. Crystal clear TV, high-speed internet, and telephone for only $99.99 a month for 12 months. With New Wave Communications, you've got game.
It's the small things in life that you tend to appreciate. The quality of care at SEMO Health Network is no different. They focus on the small details with healthcare that make you feel good, so you can get back to enjoying the small things in no time. They have so many ways to take care of you with 8 locations serving rural communities in need of medical care, including dental facilities and an in-house laboratory.
You'll feel good about this. SEMO Health Network. I want to stay connected to you. I like the way you do what you do. Alright, okay, you're fine.
Call Audubell Hearing Center at 1-800-499-8786 or visit one of our locations in Dexter and Poplar Bluff, Missouri today.
And now we're going to take a look at those volleyball state rankings for the state of Missouri. And this is the preseason poll, and they've been out a few weeks, so any games over the last 2 weeks won't reflect in this poll. They bring out that poll every 2 weeks, and it's from the Missouri High School Volleyball Coaches Association. And take a look at the first poll released by them, and take a look. In Class 1, Valley Catholic at number 1, 2. Okay, we were on football, but now we're on volleyball. Number 1, Winona. 2, Kansas City Lutheran. 3, Leopold. 4, Osceola. 5, Santa Fe. 6, Bernie. 7, Pierce City. 8, Advance. 9, Midway. And 10, Sacred Heart. So we've got a couple Southeast Missouri teams there with Bernie and Advance there in the top 10. Also Leopold right there at number 3. Class 2, we've got Fatima at number 1. 2, St. Pius out of Festus. 3, Mountain Grove. 4, Saxony Lutheran. 5, Bishop LeBlond. 6, Mountain View Liberty. 7, St. Paul Lutheran. 8, Jefferson. And 9, Herman. 10, Fair Grove. So we've got Saxony Lutheran right up there in Fruitland around Jackson there at number 4. Class 3, we got Visitation at number 1. 2, St. Francis Borgia. 3, Villa Duchesne. 4, Perryville. 5, Lutheran South. 6, Pleasant Hill. 7, Logan Rogersville. 8, St. Dominic. 9, St. Genevieve. And 10, O'Hara. So we've got a few teams there. St. Genevieve, Perryville up north, cracking that top 10 in that first poll. In Class 4, Lafayette at number 1, 2 St. Joseph's Academy, 3 Liberty, 4 Ozark, 5 St. Teresa's Academy, 6 Lee Summit West, 7 Parkway West, 8 Rock Bridge, 9 Jefferson City, and 10 Jeff City Helias. And those are your state rankings for high school volleyball for this week. And taking a look at college football games that are taking place today. We got Purdue at 24th ranked Wisconsin. They're in the Big Ten. Tennessee at 19th ranked Florida in the SEC. Michigan State at 22nd ranked Notre Dame. SMU at 10th ranked Texas A&M. Colorado State at top ranked Alabama. Auburn at 6th ranked LSU in the SEC. And Missouri on the road taking on Indiana. Arkansas is at Rutgers in the Northeast. And our local games today, Arkansas State at Memphis. Arkansas State off to a great start, 2-1 so far, and heavily favored against Memphis, even though Memphis is a Conference USA team. But Memphis, struggling program with football, so Arkansas State certainly should be the favorite, taking on Memphis later on today. And a big game on all levels here locally, and for Busch Stadium in St. Louis, SEMO takes on SIU today from Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and it will be the first football game ever in the new Busch Stadium. So certainly a neat game to look forward to between those two teams today. And we've got some photos to take a look at from Busch Stadium as well, as they prep that field for football, as we're taking a look at the it's down the left field line, this picture taken. And this is out on the field there, probably in, it looks like it's probably in the right field, down the right field line there. And the field goes from left field to right field, the football field there in the outfield. So big game to look forward to in St. Louis today. First ever football game in Busch Stadium taking place there in St. Louis. And a big rivalry between those two teams, SEMO and SIU. And certainly should be a great atmosphere there in Busch Stadium for that first ever football game there in St. Louis at Busch Stadium. So it's a neat story, especially our local team, Southeast Missouri State, and across the border there with SIU, being able to play as the first team there in St. Louis. So it just makes it even more neat that our local team can be the first team to do so there in St. Louis. And taking a look at some professional football games today in the NFL. The Packers taking on the Bengals. The Rams taking on the Cowboys. Buccaneers at the Patriots. Cardinals at the Saints. Giants at the Panthers. Texans at the Ravens. Falcons at the Dolphins. The Colts at the 49ers. The Bears at the Steelers. And the Raiders at the Broncos in Denver for Monday Night Football. So those are the games to look forward to this weekend in the NFL. And this will be the third week of the NFL, and off to a nice start. We've had a lot of passing in the league so far. I know in the first week, I think it was the most passing yards ever in the NFL in week 1. I haven't seen the stats over the past, or including week 2, but I know the opening week, I don't think there was a 100-yard rusher, and I think that was the first time ever there wasn't a 100-yard rusher in the NFL, and in any week, not just week 1, but any week of the season. There's always been a 100-yard rusher, and I believe it was the first time ever in any week of the NFL that there was not a 100-yard rusher. So we know the league started to trend pass heavy, but it still remains. They broke it down that the team that balances a good run offense with a good passing offense typically have better results. So they might need to think about getting away from the run that much. That the teams that really have that balance typically do better than those that really depend on the pass. So certainly a pass-heavy team early on in the season, and probably will stick that way, but teams might be making some adjustments down the way. So we'll see how all that develops. And that's pretty much all we've got to report on for today. And we want to remind you of some replays of high school football. The game from last night, Caruthersville and Dexter, will replay coming up today at noon. Also, we'll replay it Sunday at 4. And it's available to view online. starting this afternoon online. That Dexter and Caruthersville game, we have the highlights as well. So check out SemoSportsZone.com for that full game and highlights. And we'll have Piggott and Palestine Wheatley replaying Sunday at 7 and Tuesday night at 7:30. So look forward to those replays of the Piggott Mohawks first game. And next week, as we mentioned, Dexter and Kennett, live from Kennett at 7 o'clock next Friday. And also we'll be down in Portageville for the Haytide-Portageville game. I believe that's the game we're doing. And that'll replay next Sunday, and they'll be available to view online at SemoSportsZone.com as well. That'll wrap up today. We appreciate Travis Quertermous being in with us today, and you tuning in as always. And we've got Caleb Johns producing for us in the control room. Appreciate his efforts. And we'll see you next week right back here on the Roundtable. Until then, have a good one.